Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Divorce conversation. And on this segment of the show, I have former lawyer and certified divorce coach, Cherie Morris of Dear Divorce Coach, who's calling in all the way from Washington D.C. Now, Cherie has a wealth of knowledge in the area of divorce coaching, and we'll be talking to you today about communication in divorce. And I'm sure she's got some great tips and insights to share with us. Welcome to the show, Cherie.
Stewart, thank you so much for having me today. It's my pleasure.
You're so welcome, Cherie. So let's make the best use of our time and get started right away. Can you briefly describe the people who you serve and the kinds of situations that they find themselves in when they come to you for help?
Sure. At Dear Divorce Coach, we serve people who are contemplating divorce, in the midst of divorce, or who are experiencing post-divorce complications. So if divorce may either be a part of your life, is a part of your life, or there are still lingering issues from a divorce, including with children, we are here to help you, and we have lots of tools to do that.
So keeping that in mind, and obviously everything that you share with us today is not legal advice or legal assistance, can you briefly share some of the most common misconceptions surrounding communication in divorce?
Absolutely. So I would say the biggest misconception is that more is better. And in fact, you really have to view your new relationship with someone who was your intimate partner for perhaps a very long time as now a business relationship. And the goal really should be to impart a friendly, neutral tone and say what you need to say in that way in as few words as you can. So your goal really is to keep the communication as neutral as possible and in as few words as possible so that that person can read your letter, your email, your text if necessary, and figure out what it is you need, probably concerning your child, and act on it as needed.
Right, so based on what you just shared with us then, Cherie, and keeping client confidentiality in mind, of course, can you share with us an example of how you've helped someone who came to you with those challenges you just described and what kind of transformational results you were able to gain for them?
Absolutely, Stuart. So I think one issue I see again and again recurring, and this can be from both men and women, by the way, is a frustration with their communication because they describe to me they have told their ex again and again, their co-parent, again and again what they're doing wrong, but that they're not changing. And my immediate response to that is, that's not likely to happen. You no longer have control over most of what they do, even with your child, if you share custody. And that means that it's not your job as much as you may think you're right, and frankly, as right as you may be, to tell them how to do their parenting. And what that means really is the transformation has to occur not within your ex, but within the person that I'm coaching. They have to have a new mindset that they bring to discussions with their ex. So instead of framing issues as, I will tell you how to do what you're supposed to do, and simply share information as needed and allow the parent to execute as they choose. So really what that means in practice is deciding to communicate, and I help them develop a very simple 3-step system to do that and really bring neutrality to each of their communications with their ex, which is probably the hardest thing to do.
Okay then, Cherie. So today's topic is communication in divorce. And with that in mind, and for those divorcing couples listening in right now, what are one or two of the most unknown common pitfalls that you'd like them to be aware of?
So I think one pitfall in particular that relates to what I just said is that you should always remember that your perspective about, the issues that you need to address with your ex, your perspective may not be theirs. So in other words, don't assume they view the world in the same way you do, and that if their response is not in line with your worldview, that it's wrong. So understand they may have a very different perspective, because if you can't get past that, then you may become very frustrated. They may not be frustrated at all, by the way, and you may be spinning your wheels for a long time, needlessly wasting a lot of physical and emotional energy, mental energy that you really could be spending moving forward in your own life. So don't get caught, don't get stuck by thinking that your ex needs to think about the world in the same way you do.
It's a Monday morning and your alarm goes off, you're waking up and another day ahead of you. How do you feel with doing the work that you do and helping the kind of people that you help on a daily basis? How does that feel? Is it still fun for you?
Well, it's not only fun, but it's my joy. I feel that the work I do now is more a mission than a career, and it's really both of those things. I came to divorce coaching based on the experience of my own divorce, in which I felt I had a lot of good professionals, including a good legal professional, other than myself, by the way, and a therapist, and good financial people, even real estate people. But what I didn't have was someone to help me day by day make very concrete, practical decisions that come to you in divorce at a very high rate of speed that need to be made on a regular basis. And because I often describe the period of divorce, the 2 years surrounding it, let's say, as a period of temporary insanity for most people, it really makes sense to know you have someone walking right by your side, literally holding your hand, helping you frame those decisions. And really, none of the other professionals can do that. You will pay your lawyer a very, high hourly rate to do that, for example. But even then, they are not necessarily well prepared to give you very practical advice in your life. And certainly that's not your therapist's job either. So doing what I do brings me new challenges every single Monday, Stewart, and they are ones that I really embrace.
Yeah, and I can certainly feel your passion coming through as you speak on this topic. And it's actually a really good segue into my next question, because I'm sure if there's anybody out there, or divorcing couples who are listening right now, you've piqued their curiosity. I mean, you've shared some great information. You've spoke about some of the misconceptions that are out there, some of the unknown pitfalls that they need to be aware of. So with that said, could you briefly tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of your background and your education and your experience as it relates to the topic of effective communication in divorce?
So, Stewart, my background is, as you introduced me, that of a lawyer. And I think what that allows me to do is bring a real analytical framework to helping people in divorce. So I do have a very rational approach. I do implement a lot of holistic techniques as well, but with a rational overlay. So self-care is a big part of what I do with people, because until you can calm the chaos and overwhelm, you're not likely to act in a rational fashion. So I think both my lawyer background as well as my yoga teacher background comes together in a manner that really serves my client well. I also, as a writer, both in legal writing and then ultimately in other writing I've done, has really helped me communicate this information to my clients. So I'm able, through articles that people can find certainly on our website and in other outlets, try to describe to people, simple ways to calm the chaos, calm the overwhelm, how to talk to their children about divorce. Almost any topic you can imagine in divorce, I try to address with my clients. So my background of the rational approach with also focused upon the holistic, the self-care, the calming the chaos and overwhelm, I think helps me really serve my clients in a way that they need during this very difficult time.
I think I remember earlier you mentioned something about a 3-step system that you have to more effective communication. Can you expand on that for us so that the listeners can find out a little bit more about that, please, Cherie?
I sure can. And it's really simple, and it's not always easy, if that makes sense. So if you really can even jot down somewhere these 3 steps and reflect upon them each time you need to respond to or create a communication with your ex, I think it'll help. The first thing, number 1, is understanding the message. What really are they asking of you? What really do you need from them? So it's as simple as taking a deep breath and slowing down. If it's simply your ex communicating anger or emotional overwhelm, you don't need to respond. Just save the communication. Documentation in divorce is always important. But if it doesn't need a response right away or doesn't need any response at all, just put it away. So take your time is really the message, and take a deep breath. And then number 2, reflect upon what's happening. So before you respond, you may take out their email address, of course, and then draft the response that you want. Let it be emotional. Let it be cathartic. Don't send. And then if you're working with me, I'll ask you to send it to me and we'll edit it together so that you can learn how to do that on your own. And in the meantime, just wait. And then after you've had time to reflect and edit and make it neutral, take out all that stuff that doesn't belong in the message. And then number 3, after you've done that, remember again that you don't have to respond at all if it's just an emotional diatribe from them. If it's not, and there is something to be sent, save it before sending, and then send a short, neutral response. And that really will go a long way to getting you the relationship you need to have with your ex. By the way, I recommend that text communication be used only in the most urgent of communications, because it's simply too easy to become emotionally elevated with text messages. So unless it's a last minute logistics issue or an emergency involving your child, send an email. Give people time to reflect, and don't feel that you have to respond to a text just because it pops up on your phone. Again, if it's just a non-emergency issue.
That's a really great tip, that, Cherie. I know I've been in many situations where I've responded to a text or a WhatsApp message and totally regretted it as soon as I hit the send button.
Yes, we all have. We all have, Stewart. Yes. And it really is, because of our technology these days, there are so many ways to communicate, and some of them to our own detriment, as I like to tell my children too. So always think before pressing send if you can. And if you can't, we all make mistakes. Don't get bogged down in it, but just try to remind yourself the next time to do it a little better.
This whole point about effective communication in divorce, it's really, really important, isn't it? Because if you don't give yourself the opportunity to really hear what's going on and to really understand what your partner is saying, the domino effect of your reaction to that could be colossal.
And you can end up spending thousands of dollars in legal fees alone over a miscommunication. And remember, as I started with in the beginning, your ex probably doesn't share your worldview. So you can probably assume that whatever you say is not going to be seen in the generous light in which you sent it. So knowing that, just remember to back it down as much as you can, to be as neutral as you can, to be as, neutral and yet have a friendly tone, so that they will assume the worst, but really from your communication, they can only get the best. And that's really the goal.
So Cherie, just clear something up for me, if you will. So in your role, are you more or less preparing people for the divorce so that it goes as smoothly as possible?
I can do that, certainly. And in fact, one of the things that we do at Dear Divorce Coach is help people evaluate the decisions to stay in or leave their marriage. However, I can also work with them if they're already in the midst of a divorce and have found that there's a lot of chaos and overwhelm. I can help back that down. I can help them think about things that need to be in their agreement. I'm not giving them legal advice, but I'm certainly giving them good coaching advice based on a lot of experience. And then a lot of people have complications post-divorce because they're not communicating effectively. And instead of turning to a lawyer, they can simply turn to a divorce coach who can help them look at what their role in that communication may be and how they may go back to neutral to serve themselves and their children.
Am I being naive in thinking that the role you play can actually complement what a divorce lawyer actually does? Do the two go hand in hand in terms of you preparing a couple for the divorce procedure?
That's a great question, Stewart, and the answer is yes. In fact, I have a number of clients who work with me as they work with lawyers, because the lawyer really doesn't want them to spend time with them at their, very high hourly rate processing some of the practical issues that they need to decide. I can work with couples if they are in a place that's very cooperative. I also work with individuals if it's not. But my goal really is always to allow them to deal with each other, especially if they have minor children, because that relationship is likely one for a lifetime.
I'd like you, if you could, just to picture the kind of person who comes to you for help and wants to know more about how to effectively communicate in divorce. Now, with that in mind, what would be your final thoughts that you'd like to leave that person or a divorcing couple who's listening to you right now?
Pause before hitting send. So just wait. Just take a deep breath. Remember that what you say to your ex matters and how you say it matters, and that every thought you have doesn't need to be expressed, and in fact, probably shouldn't be. You're allowed to have your feelings, absolutely, but it isn't necessary to communicate all of those feelings to your ex. And in fact, it won't serve your best interest or the best interest of your children to do that.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Cherie Morris. Thank you so much for sharing so generously with us today, Cherie. You certainly have demonstrated without doubt that you're a true educator and advocate for your clients' success. So thank you.
Thank you, Stewart. And if people want to find out more, they're welcome to go to my website, deardivorcecoach.com, or email me at cherie@deardivorcecoach.com. I also have a book available, Should I Stay or Should I Go? And that's downloadable from Amazon. Should I stay or should I go? It's lots of good tips for you, whatever stage of divorce you're in. So feel free to take a look. And again, reach out. We are here to help you right now.
Thank you so much, Cherie. If you are looking to learn more about effective communication in divorce, make sure you do get in touch with Cherie. She certainly is the right person to be speaking with on that topic. So with that said, I'd also like to say a big thank you to you, the listener, for joining in with us on this very insightful and informative conversation with one of the top certified divorce coaches in Washington, D.C. today. Make sure you do check her out. You're going to be in good hands. So until next time, I'm Stewart Andrew Alexander. We're going to be back again shortly with some more leading divorce professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Divorce Conversations. So until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present, and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.